Introducing the new Volvo XC90 with 7-seat versatility, Google built-in, and advanced safety features for all your precious cargo. The new Volvo XC90, designed for life. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more.
Amazon Pharmacy presents Painful Thoughts.
I read somewhere that the average American spends 13 hours a year waiting in pharmacies for prescriptions. Clearly, I am above average. I thought being above average would feel better. Maybe I'll read some greeting cards.
Next time, use Amazon Pharmacy. We deliver. And here's to being anything but average. Amazon Pharmacy. Healthcare just got less painful.
Welcome to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room, an arts and culture podcast. I'm Dr. Andrew Rimby, the host and founder. Wherever you are listening, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, please do me a favor, make sure you're following the show and make sure that you rate and review us. It really means a lot, and it continues to allow me to get really exciting guests for the podcast and to continue delivering the podcast for free. Remember, though, we do have a Patreon, so if you don't want to listen to ads and you want to watch the video episodes of the podcast, patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Do you know that there is a book club? It's free and virtual. So easy to just join the book club in your pajamas on a Sunday afternoon. Our next book club is June 22nd at 5 p.m. We are reading Sophie Gilbert's Girl on Girl, How Pop Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves. She writes for The Atlantic. She is such an amazing pop culture expert. So if you've always wondered, wait, why did the paparazzi harass Britney Spears like that? Or did the Spice Girls really have a love-hate relationship with each other? You're going to want to read this book. So to join the book club, email ivorytowerboilerroom@gmail.com and I will give you the Zoom link, June 22nd, 5 p.m. Without further ado, and a brief message of thanks. Thank you to Mary DePippi, the chief contributor, and Christian Garcia, who edits this podcast, and my fiance and parents, who continue delivering really creative ideas my way. And without further ado, here's today's episode.
Hey, true crime friends. Welcome back to another episode of True Crime in Academia. I am your host, Marise Chiverella. I hope you have all had a wonderful week since we last spoke. I just got back from Texas. I had a huge trade show for work, and it was all hands on deck for my department and, helping put this all together and getting all of the marketing materials and the giveaways and kind of just setting all that up and, and finding engaging ways to bring people into the booth. We actually had like a little punch card situation going where if you got so many punches, you were eligible for different types of giveaways. And then if you saw all of the demos or got all of your punches, which was what we were doing, we had specific demos for each of our products listed. So, if you got all 5 of those different types of demos, then you would be entered into a drawing. And I think we had 2 prizes. So one was a gift card and then the other was just AirPods. So, not cheap prizes, they were definitely decent giveaways and it was awesome. We had a really good turnout and it's always just a good time to get together with the team and have fun and, after hours anyway. And really see them kind of in their element, I guess. So it was a good time to say the least. You can probably tell I am exhausted. I probably sound it. We left Wednesday right after the trade show closed. Well, after we packed everything up, which was actually we did good. It was only about a half hour for us to get that stuff done. But yeah, so once that was done, we went to the airport and Our flight was supposed to be at around like 7, and it got delayed like an hour or so, and then even more. Actually, I don't even know, it might have been closer to 2 hours, because once we boarded, they didn't have the concessions, like all of the snacks and beverages and stuff. So we were waiting for that, and at one point the stewardess came up, or the flight attendant, sorry, came up on the PA system or whatever, and was like, so this is the deal, told us about the concession situation, and was like, we have some things, we definitely have pretzels, we have snacks, we have some beverages, but as long as y'all are okay with that, we're just gonna go. And it was unanimous. Everyone was screaming, let's go. We wanted to go home so badly. But on the plane, I've watched this series called We Are Liars on Prime. Absolutely excellent. I highly recommend. The twists and turns were incredible. It is based off of a book, which for me, I'm like, say less. I tend to enjoy more of films and series that were based off of books for the most part. But anyway, again, I highly recommend you check that out. Again, it's on Prime and it's called We Are Liars. In other news, I think I was away when this happened. I don't think we had an episode, but Karen Reed is officially been found not guilty of the murder of her boyfriend / fiance, I think, John O'Keefe. He was the officer from Canton, Massachusetts, who was found dead out in front of one of his coworkers' house. I think it's the Albertsons. He was found with blunt force trauma to the head, and they thought she killed him by hitting him with her car, which she didn't, because she never hit him. And basically the whole case just seems to me, to a lot of other people, and clearly this jury, that there was a cover-up, because now the FBI is getting involved. Yes, the jury foreman recommended, I saw this recently, I forget what news outlet it was, but it was on my Bing page. And I'm sure if you look it up, you can find it anywhere. But it seemed like the jury foreman recommended and called for an FBI investigation into this case. So I am very excited to see how all of that goes down. And, hopefully there will be actual justice for Officer John O'Keefe and his family. If I'm correct, I believe the Diddy trial is still going on. I want to wait always, as usual, for everything to come out. I have been hearing things here and there about people who have testified, and it's all very tragic and extremely horrific, the things that have occurred. So, but from my understanding, it does seem like the evidence against him for racketeering, which is really what they're trying to get him on, because it is the one sentence that has the most amount of evidence, and he would be in jail for like 20 something years if convicted. So as a maximum sentence, that is. So, that's good. Hopefully it keeps going in that direction. But yeah, so when that's all over, I will maybe do a deep dive into that as a little Patreon bonus episode, because I have not done one of those in a very long time. I mean, granted, I have been very busy. A lot's been going on, in my life, and they just got put on the back burner. So we're going to try and get back into a monthly, maybe even a quarterly, depending. We'll see. But yeah, so maybe when that's all said and done, I'll get into that one. But for right now, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will get into this week's case.
Summer's almost here, and as a lover of literature, bookstores, libraries, the constant question I get is, Andrew, what book should I add to my summer reading list and read at the beach this summer? And I just always had a problem trying to tell people what to read. But guess what? no more. I have a magazine that has become my best friend. It is the GNLR, the Gay and Lesbian Review, a bi-monthly magazine of all things LGBTQ arts and culture. Their current issue is called The First Homosexuals, and it is guest edited by Dr. Jonathan D. Katz, who is a professor at the University of Penn. He was the founding president of New York's Leslie Lohman Museum of Gay and Lesbian Art, which, if you've never been there, is a free museum. So definitely go there. It's in Soho and it's amazing. Back to the GNLR. This new edition is so exciting to read. It looks at how the term homosexuality is an invented term. It was invented by medical scientists in the late Victorian period. So I can't wait to read all of these articles, but there's articles talking about homosexuality in Japan, Russia, Canada, Paris, India, Argentina. And Jonathan D. Katz talks about his exhibition called The First Homosexuals, now on display in Chicago's Wrightwood Museum from May 2nd to July 26th. But I can't get to Chicago this summer, so I'm so happy that I get to look through the magazine and see all of the articles that Jonathan has put together with contributing writers. I'm interviewing Jonathan soon, so look out for that episode, everyone. The GNLR has given me an exclusive promo code. Write it down, everyone. It's ITBR Choice, and you get a free issue with your subscription. So, glreview.org, go to the subscribe section, ITBR Choice, you get a free issue, and I can't wait for you all to enjoy the GNLR as much as I do. Please let me know if you're reading the GNLR, and until next time when I have Jonathan D. Katz on.
Rated T for Teen.
Each year, thousands of adults lose their shred. It's an epidemic simply known as shred loss. But it doesn't have to be this way, because rekindling your shred is as easy as playing the new Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. With new parks, cross-platform multiplayer, and sick new game modes, we can put an end to shred loss everywhere. Get the new Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 and show the world that the shred's not dead. Get Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 available now.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
On the morning of March 18th, 1964, a 9-year-old girl named Marise Chiverella would leave her home that morning for school and sadly would never return. Marise grew up near Hazleton, Pennsylvania, with her parents, Carmen and Mary, and her 4 siblings. Now, Marise and her siblings all attended St. Joseph's Parochial School, which was about a 10-minute walk from their home. However, on the morning of March 18th, Marise decided that she wanted to get a head start and get to school because she had some canned goods, some canned beets and some canned pears, as a gift for her teacher, who was one of the nuns named Sister Josephine. And this was in honor of Sister Josephine's feast day. Now, for those of you who never attended Catholic school or just don't know much about the Catholic faith, a feast day is generally a celebration day, and generally they are dedicated to each saint. Some of them are events, but most specifically, most commonly, the ones that are celebrated are dedicated to saints. So pretty much, I don't know if it's every day of the year, but you can kind of find one if you just Google like feast day of, and then you can pick your saint. Or you could just pick whose feast day is it today, and it'll probably tell you who. So generally, when you're in 8th grade and you go through confirmation, I mean, for the most part at this time, a lot of Catholics did have very Catholic names, or like saintly names. So most people kind of already had their own patron saint, which literally just means that you're named after a saint. For example, my name's Mary, so my patron saint is Mary, the Blessed Mother of Jesus. So even though she's still God's mother, she's also technically a saint. So sometimes when you have that, and with nuns, I know that they get to choose their name when, you know, they become ordained. I don't know if it's ordained or not, but when they become a nun and they take their vows, they take a name as well. And it's usually one that's after a saint. So to celebrate her feast day or to honor her feast day is to say that, you know, it was the feast day of Saint Josephine, who I should have looked up what she's the patron saint for. Hold on. I'm going to look that up. Okay. So it looks like Saint Josephine is a more recent saint, so that wouldn't be who she's named after. Saint Josephine, however, is the patron saint of Sudan and human trafficking. Very interesting story if you want to look her up. But I believe this nun, Sister Josephine, used that as a way of basically making her patron saint Joseph, Jesus's earthbound father, who was a carpenter. So, because his feast day is on March 18th. I was going to say, I knew that date was familiar to me otherwise, but yeah, so Maurice was bringing her like these things that I'm assuming this teacher likes, you know, to honor her feast day. So I guess that was a very long-winded way of saying the person you're named for's not birthday, but celebration day. So it's almost like a birthday, kind of, but not really. Anyway, also, this was not something completely out of character for Maurice to do. She was described as being a shy, kind, and happy child. She played the organ, and when she grew up at this moment in time, because she's 9, who's to say her mind wouldn't change, but at that time, she wanted to be a nun herself. And, you know, just seeing also being a child in a Catholic school, generally that's because your parents are also super religious. So celebrating feast days was probably something very common. But again, for Maurice specifically, like, this was just something she would do, and, you know, was just that type of kind and thoughtful person. Sadly, she never even made it to school that day. At around 1 p.m., a man and his 16-year-old nephew, who he was teaching how to drive, were driving along the road and noticed what they thought was a doll off to the side of the road. And obviously, when they looked closer, they found that it was not a large doll, but in fact, a child. It was the sadly deceased body of Marise Chiverella. She was found bound with her wrists and ankles tied with her shoelaces and gagged. During the autopsy, it was also revealed that she was sexually assaulted. Police worked tirelessly for months and months and months. Over 250 members of law enforcement had been involved, and over 4,700 pages of police files. Police still could not find a reliable or credible lead. In the words of one of the detectives, there was actually too many suspects. Anyone really could have done it. The Chiverella family understandably went into a huge depression after this horrific loss of their daughter and sister. Sadly, Carmen and Mary would never find out that their daughter got justice, because it would take about 57 years before her murder and sexual assault would be solved.
I was recently watching Return to Oz and Nosferatu with my fiance, and I thought, wait, I just had on Broadview Press authors who wrote a vampire literature anthology and the iconic edition of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. So I said to my fiance, you know what? I need to tell everyone who's listening to ITBR that BroadviewPress.com has everything from classic novels to discussions about vampire literature, vampires in film and TV, the philosophy of sports, Native American culture, horror. There is so much on Broadview Press's website. I urge you all right now, search broadviewpress.com. You will see that not only do they have books for college instructors, which if you do teach college, you better add them to your list because it's amazing, all the resources they have. But if you have just wandered around a bookstore or a library and thought, you know, everyone always told me to read Moby Dick, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to fully understand it. Broadviewpress.com has you covered because they have amazing notes and sources to help you dissect that huge whale of a tale. See what I did there? I was just watching the Page Master, so there's a little Moby Dick reference. Head to broadviewpress.com, use the exclusive code they gave us, Ivory Tower, 20% off your entire order. Yes, your entire order. Enjoy your reading, and please reach out to me and let me know what you're reading from Broadview Press. I would love to share it on social media.
In 2020, Eric Schubert, a genetic genealogy hobbyist who was attending Elizabethtown College, came across a newspaper article online about police's efforts in solving Marise's case. And call it intuition, call it divine intervention, call it the universe, call it whatever you want. But for whatever reason, this case really stuck with Eric and he felt like he had to do something. So he emailed the police department and offered his assistance and basically see if he could help them solve this case through genetic genealogy. Now, unlike regular genealogy, which uses history, a lot of public records to try and basically put together your lineage and your family tree, they also use DNA and specific parts of DNA to try and essentially make these family trees and make these connections using more biological data instead of just, like I said, the normal records like birth certificates, immigration papers, marriage certificates, all that stuff. So again, the universe, divine intervention, what have you, the police read his email and decide to reach out to him. So, of course, they have to vet him properly first. You know, they aren't going to make a decision and just bring on this freshly new adult, this 18-year-old, you know, to come in and try and solve a decades-old murder case. So the investigators set up a meeting with Eric at a coffee shop that's on his campus. And aside from his drink order, which was apple juice because he didn't drink coffee, and the cops just thought that was interesting, he also made a huge impression by how prepared he was with like everything, like all of his cases or things that he had worked on, and kind of just to show them, you know, this is what I can do. And, you know, that he felt it could benefit them in finding the killer and closing this case. So the investigators, impressed with him and everything, decide to give him a shot. And for the next 18 months, he would spend about 20 hours a week working on this case. And again, just remember, like, he's also doing school at this time. I mean, 20 hours may not seem like a lot to a lot of people, considering you work a normal 40-hour week, but 20 is a lot for a college student. Because like I said, aside from the probably full class schedule being a full-time student, there's probably also extracurriculars, there's homework, you know, just being a college student. So he was really dedicating a lot of time just to this case and working on this family tree. So as Eric's going along, he starts zeroing in on this bartender named James Forte. Now, he was never a suspect, but he did have a criminal record. I believe it's in like the People magazine source that I have in here, but it said that Eric had kind of found him through, I believe, a great-great-grandfather who had immigrated, I believe, from Italy. Something they were able to get, it seemed like DNA or something from that to kind of match up. And then from there, it was just trying to figure out who in the Forte family could have possibly done it, it seemed. And all of his research and everything would have been enough to get a DNA sample from James Fort. However, unfortunately, he had died in 1980 at just the age of 38 of supposed natural causes. Now, I'm not sure if he had some sort of degenerative illness or chronic illness that maybe he succumbed to, and that could have been considered natural causes. But I'm not sure how that happens for someone that young. That's not really... Yeah, it's not natural to die that young. So I'm not exactly sure what happened. But regardless, he had passed well after or well before this investigation was really ramping up. However, this evidence was compelling enough to get a judge to sign off on getting James Forte's body exhumed and have his DNA taken. Investigators then ran his DNA against the DNA that didn't belong to Marise that was found on her, and it came back as a match on February 3rd. Shortly after, the police gave a press conference, and the case was officially closed. One of Marise's living siblings, her brother Ron, is very thankful for this closure, and getting an answer of what happened to his sister. But, that obviously it still never takes away the weight of the loss or the loss of itself. Just because they know what happened now doesn't mean like she's not coming back, unfortunately. But, as he said, it did give them closure, and I just hope it gives them some peace in some way, Eric Schubert, however, he graduated from Elizabethtown College in 2023 and got his MFA at Millersville University of Pennsylvania. Currently, he runs his own genealogy business and also works for another company as a forensic genetic genealogist. So, if you're ever looking to have your family tree done and don't want to use Ancestry.com or any of that other stuff, I'd highly recommend looking this guy up and using his services, because clearly, even before a degree, not that that always means anything, but, he clearly knows what he's doing with this. Anyway, that is all I have for you, my loves. Don't forget to follow True Crime in Academia on social media at True Crime in Academia on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. Also, if you would like to listen to this episode ad-free and all of the episodes ad-free, go to patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room to become a subscriber today. Well, my darlings, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. It is the 4th of July weekend. I am actually, as soon as I'm done here, I have to go food shopping. My man and I are going down the shore for the 4th of July weekend. Very excited. The weather is supposed to be great. So I got to do all that. Also, want to shout out to my dad. Happy birthday. He's a 4th of July baby. So yeah, love you, Dad. Happy birthday. And my darlings, I love you all. And until next time, I will see you all later.